Hey everybody, Dara Koenig here, and welcome to this episode of Her Becoming. Last episode, I had an incredible conversation with Kendra Spohn, the owner and operator of the Mayor's House Bed and Breakfast in Benton Harbor. And something Kendra said during our conversation has really stayed with me. Talked about learning to leave the house without fully needing to be put together all of the time, because she was in the middle of renovating a house. She didn't have the time to go and put herself together, get the paint out of her hair, off her clothes and things like that, and how she would even show up to date nights and just leggings and a t-shirt. And she's talked about how this surprisingly resulted in her starting to have more genuine connection with people because she stopped trying so hard to appear perfect. The more I've sat with this conversation, the more I realized that that wasn't just about makeup or appearance or even confidence. It's about safety. I think many women spend most of their lives learning how to be accepted before ever learning how to be fully seen. And honestly, I think many of us learned that presentation has felt safer than honesty. Not because we're shallow, not because we're fake, but because somewhere along the lines we learned if I present well, people are less likely to reject me. And when I started thinking about where that began for me, the truth is, I realized it started very early. You see, just a few years ago, my aunt told me about how when I was little, I was her living doll. She would dress me up, she would do my hair, make me look cute. And I didn't think there was anything intentionally harmful in that. I still don't. But when I look back now, I realize something. That as long as the adults around me thought I looked cute, they were less likely to be angry with me. And I think little girls learn things like that very early. We learn that the pretty girls get praised. Oh, doesn't she look so cute? Isn't she adorable? Doesn't she look so beautiful today? The pleasant girls get accepted. She's so sweet. Look at how kind she is. Oh, let me just give you a hug. The agreeable gets rewarded, and emotional control keeps the peace. And so, without even realizing it, women become highly skilled at presentation, not authenticity, and eventually that doesn't just affect how we look. It affects how we lead, how we communicate, how we ask questions, how we exist in rooms. I think early on in my career, there was this phrase everywhere, and it probably still is in some circles, very prevalent, but it is fake it till you make it. Right? Show up like you've arrived, act like you know everything, and project this complete and utter confidence at all times. And honestly, I've found that made learning really difficult because when you're trying to maintain that appearance of competence, it becomes very hard to admit you don't know something. I remember sitting in meetings where questions that I could ask safely depended entirely on who else was in the room. Because the wrong coworker, the wrong boss, you'd never hear the end of it. I would never hear the end. So again, performance became protection. And I think a lot of women in leadership especially, but just us women in general, we quietly live here. Not because we're incapable, but because we've learned that vulnerability can cost us credibility. And honestly, I think women carry an entirely different layer of emotional performance that we rarely talk about. From the time many girls get their first period, they're taught life goes on regardless of what your body is experiencing. Fatigue, pain, hormonal shifts, emotional overwhelm. Just keep going. How many women have tried to use their voice only to have it diminished to, it must be that time of the month? So what do we learn to do? We learn to mask, to regulate outwardly, to remain emotionally acceptable at all times. And over time, that pressure has robbed us of our voice, not because we have nothing to say, but because we learned it was safer to suppress ourselves rather than risk being dismissed. And you see, that's what's really interesting, because I didn't even realize how much performance I had carried until I started doing the women in automotive interviews. Because during those conversations, my focus completely shifted. And I wasn't worried about proving myself. I wasn't worried about trying to perform. I wasn't trying to dominate the conversation. My focus became, how do I create a safe enough space for this amazing woman that I'm getting the privilege to interview and to talk to and to glean knowledge from? How do I create a space safe enough for her to be fully seen? And what surprised me was this: the more safety I created for them, the deeper they connected with me. Not because I was impressive, but because I was present. I think that revealed something really important to me. True connection rarely happens through performance. It always happens through connection. It happens through presence. There's a phrase in automotive, bell to bell, and I am sure it's in other industries, yes, but my background is primarily in automotive. And so to work bell to bell means open to close. First one in, last one out. And I had this thought recently because, yes, I was very much that person. I needed to prove myself. I would work hard. I would be that person that was first in, last one out. But let me ask this. I want you to stop and I want you to imagine two employees leaving at the end of the day. One purposely waits for the other person to leave before walking out. Which one is the professional and which one's the performer? Let me just rewind and let you hear that again. Two people are leaving at the end of the day. One person purposely waits for the other person to leave before walking out. Professionalism and performance are not always the same thing. And excellence becomes exhaustion the moment your identity becomes attached to maintaining the appearance of excellence at all times. I honestly don't think that I ever fully understood what it felt like to be comfortable and to fully be able to be seen and be okay around another person until I met Matt, my husband. You see, there's this peace that comes when you no longer feel constantly evaluated. This diminishing fear of rejection, diminishing fear of judgment. You stop managing yourself every second. And recently, I've experienced this too with my dear friend Allison Rank. She started as my women in automotive mentor a year ago. And now simply, she is a safe person in my life, one of less than a handful of people I can say I am truly myself around, and I am comfortable enough to just be me fully and unapologetically. And I'm learning that safe people change us because your nervous system realizes I don't have to perform to stay loved here. And that changes everything. And honestly, it's my relationship with God that has changed and completely redefined how I understand being seen, because no one will ever fully see me the way God does. I mean, I can't hide even a thought from him. But here's what's interesting. The more I understand how he sees me, this person that I am, the more clearly I can see other people too. The closer I get to his heart, the clearer my lens for others becomes. And unlike performance culture, nothing is hidden from God. I can come honestly, tired, healing, fearful, unfinished, no makeup, and somehow I am still fully loved. I am his daughter, his masterpiece, the one he looks on and smiles. That has changed everything. Because I know how he sees me, I have a better view of how to see others. And so there was this song that was just playing a little bit ago while I was reflecting on all of this. And there is a lyric that just stopped me in my tracks. My armor's been to hell and back to prove my worth. And I thought, yes. That is exactly how so many women live. Armor everywhere, performance everywhere, exhaustion everywhere. Trying to prove worth was never meant to be earned in the first place. And maybe, just maybe, becoming is not learning how to perform better. Maybe becoming is learning you are finally safe enough to be fully seen. So the question today is not, how do I become more impressive? The question is, where did I learn it was unsafe to simply be fully seen? And I imagine healing begins the moment we stop asking, how do I maintain the image? And start asking, who am I underneath the armor? So thank you for being here with me today on this episode of Her Becoming. And what is one place in your life you are learning to stop performing and start showing up honestly? Thank you for spending your time with us today on Her Becoming. I'm grateful if this conversation encouraged you, but I hope it does something else. I hope that also reminds you of something important. Your story is not finished yet. Wherever you find yourself in the process, keep building. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. You never know how a story of becoming might encourage someone else to keep moving forward. Until then, thank you for being here. And while we're all still building, please pardon our dust.